Here we are. So we have an hour and a half to do some questions. So let us begin. The first is, can you comment on the three factors that are unconditioned? The sky, enlightenment, and the moment of enlightenment. Well, the sky is used as a symbol in many systems of Dharma, a lot in Mahamudra, for example. The sky has no center, no edge. You can't define it. The word sky, of course, is more like our sense of space, that the planets are in space. Space is not something to be displaced by a planet. The sky is not constructed. It's there. It's the space within which various forms of construction and conditioning occur. Similarly, enlightenment itself is not a construct. If it had a beginning, then it would have an end. It's not a thing. It's not like a tree or a mountain or a motor car. Our normal use of language relates to things. So although we can talk of the sky or space or enlightenment, we have to be careful that we're not inferring from this that there's some kind of special substance there. So there's a little bit of a conflict or contradiction between the language of the path and the language of the result. So from the point of view of the ground or the basis, the mind itself is like space. It's unchanging, unconditioned. To be aware of this is the quality of the natural light of the mind. It is self-illuminating. It's not that we see this, but the inherent luminosity of the mind reveals its non-duality with openness. But when unawareness arises, and it arises in an instant as a magical formation, then the energy of the moment, which is self-arising and self-releasing, like the movement of waves on the ocean, this pulsation or energy starts to spiral around itself, giving the dense feeling of an entity. And this ripens as the dualistic sense of self and other. In the next weekend, at the beginning of December, we'll look at this in some detail. So we find ourselves wandering in samsara. I am real. I feel unique and separate. In a sense, I feel eternal. I've always been me. Why would I stop being me? So in the Dharma, we are encouraged to meditate on death and impermanence, so that we can start to see that I myself am not some autonomous entity with its own basis, but rather that I, me, myself are ways of interpreting experience. So I start to see, oh, I have many different moods. I act on the environment and the environment acts on me. So we start to move from self and other as fixed entities to self and others as a dynamic dialogue. So then we have the beginning of the Dharma path, which is I'm stuck wandering in samsara and I want to get out. Oh, where I am is not so good. I want to be somewhere else. And between here and where I want to get to, there is a path. This is a way of thinking about our present situation. It is a way of thinking about it belonging to relative truth. I have to go from this limited place to the open place. So this is a story where I am the hero. I am going to do this. And moreover, I'm going to do it for the sake of all sentient beings. Wow, I'm a pretty good guy. I deserve enlightenment. So by being a good hero, I accumulate merit and wisdom. And then with these accumulations, I can open the door to enlightenment. And this is a very special kind of currency, because by offering all my accumulated merit to other people, it is magically increased. So how could that be possible? Well, what limits our accumulation is the fact that I think it is mine. It is simply accumulation. And when I look at the nature of what is accumulated, I see nothing is accumulated. But if somebody said to us, if you want to be a Buddha, you should work very, very hard and give everything away for hundreds of millions of lifetimes, and there would be no gain at the end. That would not be very popular, because we are concerned with getting something. May I gain enlightenment? May I get it? We find that in many, many Tibetan texts. I don't have it, but I'd like to get it. For we who are meditators, we have to see this is a style of talking, a trope. It is not an accurate description. It's more a kind of inspiring symbolization. So instead of thinking I'm on a path to enlightenment, in these more direct schools like Mahamudra and Dzogchen, we are concerned with the falling away or the self-liberation of the obscurations which prevent us being fully present. So in that way, it's not that we go from being unenlightened to being enlightened, that I will become enlightened, but rather that as the veils fall away, the intrinsic enlightenment or the intrinsic light of the mind shines forth. So with a very familiar example, they say it's like a lamp inside a clay pot. And the potter is the symbol of the process of compounding, of bringing together, of formation. The intrinsic light of the mind is hidden by our own effort at building the world according to our interpretations. Once we enter into the dualistic paradigm, then many different factors can be employed as ingredients in the fabrication of our sense of who we are and where we are. So it could be our gender, our age, our race, our national culture, economic structures, diseases, all kinds of factors can be employed in the elaboration of the specificity of my own existence. So subject is plugged into this complex field of object. And I'm trapped in my emotional reactivity, my aversion, my desire, jealousy, and so on, that has me vibrating. There's a lot to be cleared away. And that feels right for us, because we often feel burdened by ourselves. Why am I like this? Why is it that my mind is stuck like this and other people seem free? So I need to sort myself out. So in Dharma, there are many, many purification practices. But the key point for Mahamudra and Dzogchen is that the issue is not the subject and it's not the object, it's the glue. So what is gluing me into samsara is the grasping at both subject and object as separate and autonomous and important. So when we sit in our meditation practice and relax and allow whatever is arising to come and go, we start to see that the glue is an energetic whirl. It's a kind of wind that links subject and object together. It's the medium of resonance between subject and object. And sometimes when we're very relaxed, the object side, if you like, is coming and going, and there's no subject reaction. in other occasions, everything which occurs in our mind seems to set off some reactivity in us, some opinion and judgment. And we start to see, oh, if involvement doesn't arise or attachment doesn't arise, then what appears to be self and what appears to be other both arise and pass. So the moment of enlightenment, this is the moment when we see this glue has no power to it. It's not a thing. It's not a it's a tension. If we tense our fingers to grasp hold of something, what we have is the tightening of the muscles that are pulling on the tendon and causing the fingers to turn inwards. And the power of the muscle allows us to hold on very tightly, like hanging on to the branch of a tree. But of course, you can't hang on to the tree for days and days, because the nature of our body is that we tighten and we release. We breathe in, we breathe out. The heart is tightening and loosening, pumping the blood all around the body. So when we see that this grasping or this holding is actually a pulsation, in that this self that we take ourselves to be is not a constant phenomena, then you have the falling away of the conceptual edifice. And that moment is not compounded. It's not made, it's not gathered or brought together. It's what is revealed with the falling away of the gathered. So, although in general, if we don't feel that I want to get enlightened and I want to do it for the sake of other beings, if I don't have this motive, I'm probably not going to do anything. We have to see that that is a mobilization through tension. And it's a good preparation. But the essential point arises when we relax and release. The door to the unconditioned is unconditioned. It's not made by anyone. It's not constructed out of good activities. It's always there, present with us. It is our own self-preoccupation, our own hallucination of the importance of our daily life that makes it the door to freedom invisible for us. So this next question is, why did great lamas like Dudjom Rinpoche, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, and so on do tantric practices of visualization, mantra, and so on every day? Is a practice like Dzogchen Guru Yoga not enough? So we talk about a Renaissance man like Leonardo da Vinci, who could turn his hand to anything. And in Tibet, this when a child was recognized as a great incarnation, they were given a very intensive education, because they were being trained to be the maintainers of all the traditions, so that they could give initiations of 100 different practices, 1,000 different practices. So they were maintaining the tradition and making it available to other people. So many of the practices they were doing were not so much for their own development, but for the development of other people. So they had to keep the warm blood of the lineage flowing. The second part of this question is, can you do tantric sadhana while holding the Dzogchen view? From the Dzogchen view, nobody's doing anything. Activity is the spontaneous display of the energy of the ground. It doesn't just arise in some random formation, but it arrives syntonic or in harmony with the lived situation. So the arising of a practice where you start with taking refuge, doing the bodhisattva vow, maybe doing some purification practice, making offerings, all the different stages of a large sadhana practice, you can think of this as something that I do. I have to do it every day because it is my duty, because I promised I would do it. But that maintains you in a very dualistic relationship with the practice. So if we bring in the Dzogchen view, we see that sound is vibration, what we see is vibration, the thoughts and feelings that arise for us are vibration. Everything in it is in movement like the sky. So in that sense, to express it symbolically, our mind is like Padmasambhava, and the activities of the mudras, offerings, and so on, this is like the display of the dakinis moving around in space. This is arising in these particular patterns according to the structure of the chief of the mandala. So if the chief of the mandala was a goddess like Dorji Pamo, then you have a different constellation of energy and how you participate in life. The key point is to see I am part of the flow of energy. Everything which I take to be the enduring truth of me is actually manifesting moment by moment. It is the rhythm of the patterning which gives the sense of the continuity. Just like in the old cinema, when the film is presented in little takes, on the cellulose, there's little shots, individual shots which are being spun around. The speed at which these frames are evolving allows an illusory sense of continuity or of action to arise for us as experience. So if you like, in meditation, generally we are turning down the speed at which the projector is running the film past the light. Then you start to see, oh, there is this thought, then it goes, next thought, then it goes. Everything is self-arising and self-liberating. And it is the quality of my own immersion in the experience, or my own fusion with the flow of images, which creates the sense of continuity and reality. So when we do this open practice, we find ourselves limited in various ways. Some people are a bit manic, a bit overexcited. The mind is very, very busy. Others are more torpid. They tend to fall asleep. So there are many methods you can then practice to alter your fixation on these patterns of experience. Or you can just sit in the practice and gradually the mind dissolves. It depends on how much you trust space or the unborn purity of the mind. If you trust this open ungraspability, then there's nothing to do. But if that makes you feel a bit agitated and you think, oh, but I have to do something, then the Buddha in his kindness taught many, many things for you to do. It very much depends on the patterning of your own energy, whether you can really release and relax, or whether you have a residual tension inside you driving you forward. Then the next question is, what is the Buddhist significance of adventitious? Well, now we, in the in the Christian season, we're coming towards Advent, meaning Jesus is coming. He's not here, but he's coming. So this is the meaning of adventitious, that something which is not here arrives. Tomorrow is coming, but it can't arrive because today is already here. We have to wait for today to vanish before tomorrow can arrive. Due to causes and conditions, that which was not here will appear. But every arising thing is a vanishing thing. If something has a beginning, it will have an end. So adventitious describes the fact of the patterning of all our experience. Sometimes when what was there before vanishes, it leaves some trace. As if you travel around in Europe or Asia, you find lots of ruins of temples and fortresses and so on. Edifices were built and they were new, and then they became old, and there was war, and they fall down. So the compounded, the constructed is within time, and therefore at the mercy of the forces in time, it will be destroyed. So the contrived, the artificial, the compounded, the adventitious, these are all referring to the phenomena of samsara. But the uncompounded is not adventitious, it is always there. So we talk of primordial purity or intrinsic wisdom or intrinsic presence. So for meditators, maybe the key point is the distinction that can be made between the mind itself and the content of the mind. The mind itself is unborn awareness. It's not a thing. It's beyond being apprehended by concepts. But the content of the mind, the flow of the patterns of our experience, sensations in the body, memories, seeing birds flying in the sky, hearing a car screeching in the road, all of these arise and pass. So the ego self, the sense of the definite, somehow substantial continuity of myself, this is a delusion which obscures both the actual quality of the mind itself and also the quality of the content of the mind. Okay, next question. How to deal with feelings of shame or guilt if you are unable to follow through with a guru's command? Generally speaking, in Western democratic countries, we don't have too many commands. Even the police normally offer a polite request. So we're not in the army. Tibetan culture was extremely hierarchical, patriarchal. That's not really the frame of reference that we live in. So it's most probably teachers nowadays don't issue too many commands the way that perhaps were done in the past. Marpa gave Milarepa many difficult tasks to perform. This was a way of helping Milarepa not to trust the content of his own mind. I trust the Guru more than my own mind. I mean, Milarepa ate Marpa's food, or at least his wife Dagmema's food. He ate the food from his Guru and from the Guru's wife. So he also got a place to sleep. Now, that kind of structure you don't get in the West too much. Usually we have to take care of ourselves. But in the end, you can only do what you can do. So if the Guru says you should, for example, complete all the preliminary practices in 1 year, and you are not able to do this, then you have not been able to do this. What does it mean? It means you were not able to do it. Life happened, things happened. Maybe your mother died. Maybe you got tired and had a period of no faith. All sorts of things can arise. I should have done it. I said I would do it. I feel so bad that I couldn't do it. I just can't trust myself. Then all the Buddhas are gathered in the heavens and they are clapping and saying, this is one wonderful student. This student had realized she cannot trust herself. Success and failure are two kinds of demon. And success is often more dangerous than failure because it can feed into pride and other people start to think you're a good person and that further seals you inside some definition of yourself. As long as my practice is embedded in the ego nexus, I am cut off from all the resources which are available in the openness of the mind itself. I'm condemned to a kind of heroic struggle. So to realize that fighting to overcome all obstacles may in itself be a major obstacle. This is actually quite useful. Who am I struggling with? Some people have very healthy bodies, some people's bodies not so healthy. If you're young and healthy, maybe you can do 2,000 prostrations a day. You couldn't do it when you were 5 years of age, and maybe you can't do it when you're 50 years of age. So there is a period of potential between maybe, say, 25 and 40 when you could do that. So the Buddha has explained this very well. Due to causes and conditions, it becomes possible to do many prostrations in one day. And when causes and conditions change, it is no longer possible. So who did the 2,000 prostrations a day? I did, on the basis of causes and conditions. I did. This is the ego, the autonomous ego. This is what I do due to propitious, helpful causes and conditions. So who was doing them? To say I did it is a very narrow story. If we recognize that non-duality is our participation in the world, and that we are raised up and cast down by many different factors, then rather than entering into judgment and thinking I have done well, we see this manifested due to the interaction of many factors. And on top of that, we stick our own little name, like a cherry being put on top of a cake. I did this. This is not true. So as long as you think I did it or I didn't do it, then you will have pride and shame and guilt. So if you can't do what you have agreed to do, you can examine the vanity of believing in yourself. So we have to collaborate with those who hopefully are collaborating with us. And so what am I trying to learn? In Dzogchen, we have this term rangsen, which means self-deception. The more you understand your own self-deception, the more you get close to the possibility of letting go of your pretensions and identifications. So if the guru says, you are a wonderful disciple, that is called a sentence. And you are a terrible student, that's also called a sentence. Who is the person being addressed? The delusion of the five heaps, the five skandhas. You are a very good delusion. You are a completely useless delusion. The important thing is to see you are a delusion. Good and bad will cover over the actuality of deludedness. Okay, next question is, when I practice and make absolutely no effort, I'm dragged around by thoughts. I feel like I need to have some sort of intention or minor effort in order to stay open and present. So if I make absolutely no effort and I'm completely relaxed, I'm dragged around by thoughts. These thoughts are very, very strong. If you ever try to carry someone who is completely unconscious, they seem much heavier than somebody who's awake. In English, we call it dead weight. So if you are really relaxed, your dead weight will be impossible for any thought to move. So you are at the crossroads. Your habit formation tells you, I should try harder, I should do something, that will be easier. But if you pay attention to the actual phenomenology of what is arising, as we looked earlier, we have subject and object and the glue between them. The more you relax, the less glue there is from the subject side. So, from the point of view of Dzogchen, if you're very tired, then don't do sitting practice. Do it in the morning when you wake up, even if you only have 15 minutes. But if you're struggling against your own situation, that you're tired or hungry, then you're on the hero path. You're fighting to overcome circumstances. But in Dzogchen, we want to work with circumstances, collaborating with ourselves and with our environment. So I would suggest the key thing is to try to step out of this interpretive frame of struggle and effort, and it's all up to me. But of course, if you follow this path of relaxation into the intrinsic, then you don't have this caress of ego agency, this self-reflexive sense of one's own potency. From the point of view of Dzogchen, all the movement of the mind, all experience is arising as the energy of awareness. So by not doing anything, you allow the unimpeded flow of experience. And then you see the limiting pressure of your addiction, because we tend to categorize whatever is occurring in terms of I like or I don't like. I want to get more of what I like and less of what I don't like. Now the whole world is turning around you. There is this, whatever, flow of light or experience, sensation, all kind of things are arising. All that's required is that you just stay present with it. What is so important about you that your opinion is vital for the progress of the humankind? I am irrelevant. I, the ego self, is ignorance. If I want to have bright, shining awareness, ignorance is irrelevant. But I like some thoughts and I don't like others. Who asked you? Silence. Then you start to vibrate because you want to respond. Then some people become very agitated, other people start to fall asleep, doing too much, doing too little. Simply stay with what is occurring. Who is staying with it? Not the ego. The ego is a meddler. It's always involved. It's up to something. So the issue is just being present. And all that you have learned, all your skills, all your knowledge is irrelevant. So meditating like a dead person. You're not required to do anything. If you can do that, then you start to free yourself from the necessity of insinuating yourself where you don't belong. Yourself is not a thing. It's a quality of attention, which is a selective attention. Awareness is non-selective. That's why they say it's like the sky, it's open to everything. But I wouldn't be me if I was open to everything. Then you have to decide, is it so great being you? You are sitting in a bus that is going to crash into a wall. Death is awaiting you. If you get off the bus before it crashes, that's good. This is why we meditate. Then next question, in Guru Yoga of the White Ass, should the eyes be kept open all the time? Yeah, generally we keep the eyes open because we have the ears are open, the senses are all open. So if you are sitting for a while, maybe your bum gets sore. This sensation is the relationship between your cushion and your bum. It's arising at the interface between these aspects. The same way your ears relaxed and open. You hear people maybe talking or dogs barking or some big lorry going by and the house shakes a little bit. So there is appearance or experience. This comes, goes. What was that? We don't need to know. As soon as you're thinking, what was that? I don't like things to be happening if I don't know what they are. Oh, so maybe this is why relaxation is very difficult. Because if in order to feel relaxed, you have to know what is going on, then you have to be vigilant. And if you're vigilant, you're not relaxed. And so you have this slightly fearful, slightly aroused attention scanning to see what is happening. So, as Namkhai Norbu used to say so many times, don't enter into judgment. There is this. What is it? Is the beginning of a judgment. So, just as if you were to run your fingers down your face, you have the arising and passing of sensation. The sensation is vanishing just as it arises. Like in the famous traditional Tibetan example, like writing on water, using your finger, you write something on the surface of the water. It's dissolving just as it's arising. That is this. As soon as you say, what is this? It introduces the nominative mode, the noun, the thing, something that can be referred to. As soon as there is something, it's very difficult not to arouse your prejudice, liking and not liking. So don't merge into this and explore it as if there's some hidden treasure in it. So just as when your fingers go down your face, there is this sensation. It's just that. It's not anything else. It's just there and gone. But what is it for? James, what are you trying to say? What should I do with this? There's nothing to do with it. Then it's just meaningless. Yeah, meaningless for the ego. The ego finds meaning by making meaning on the basis of that which is already gone. Vanishing, vanishing, vanishing. Everything is impermanent. It doesn't mean there is nothing at all, because this ungraspable sensation is there, but it's not permanent. It is self-showing. It's unconstructed, and you don't need to construct anything on the basis of it. A great deal of our life is spent in direct perception, but this bright, vibrant world is obscured by our need to conceptualize our own experience. We think about something. If we just have a thought, the thought's gone before it can be caught. But once you start to think about something, this something is like a buoy, like one of these plastic balls that's in the sea that sailors tie their little boats to. The buoy is floating with the water, and what is tied to it is also floating on the water. But the little dinghy can't move away because it's somehow anchored to this moving point. This is happening in the middle of the sea. The waves are going up and down, up and down, up and down. Nothing to say about the waves. But we can say that the buoy is red plastic or blue plastic. It's 1 meter in diameter or 2 meters. It's 300 meters from the beach. The presence of the buoy allows a kind of mapping out of the territory around it. The beach stands in relation to the buoy. The big ship further out stands in relation to the buoy. So you can experience this for yourself, that when you take yourself as the point of reference, everything is somehow mapped in relation to this self. But your ego self, when you look, actually has a sea anchor, because the sea is too deep to put down an iron anchor on a rope. Each of us is floating on nothing. We are the manifestation or the display or the expression of emptiness. The solidification of the sense of self is a density produced by complex vibration of investment and belief. Then that's why we keep the eyes open. Because if you close your eyes, you go into yourself. I am in my body is in the world. I'm not the same as my body, and my body is not the same as the world. So these differentiations are not helpful for meditation. So when we open, the text always says, whatever comes, comes. Be present with whatever is coming. Don't try to control it or organize it. If you relax control, you won't go mad, you won't get lost. You start to have some more sense that everything is moving in space, and that you stabilize the movement, the motility of experience through the application of concepts. But these concepts themselves are impermanent. So you go for a walk with a friend and you look at a tree, you say, that is an oak tree. Something definite has been established. But what is the oak tree referring to? The tree. Now, if we walk on 10 paces, do we see the same tree or not? It looks different. It only looks different. It's the same tree. It's very, very important to experience this directly for yourself. Because in that moment, you have two vectors of experience. You have the direct revelation of what the appearance of the tree, the green, the branches, and so on. You have phenomena, complex, to an extent it's ungraspable. On the other hand, you have the concept. And the concept allows you to homogenize the tree, to standardize it as this oak tree. Now you feel potent, competent. You know something. You know something by ignoring the actuality of the tree. You know it's an oak tree. Mm-hmm. If you know this oak tree, okay, how many leaves has it got? How old is it? There are many questions you could ask about the oak tree that the knowing that it is an oak tree doesn't in any way answer. It's not that there is a war between phenomena and concepts, because concepts are a subset of phenomena. It is when the concept is extrapolated, taken out of the unfolding plane of phenomena, and it seems entitled to judge what is there and comment on what is there. This is how samsara is generated. There is an over potentiation or validation of the conceptual parallel to a denigration of the phenomenal. So that's why we sit with our senses open, because we want to optimize the possibility of seeing the dynamic quality of everything which is arising. That concepts are part of the flow of experience, and they don't have any intrinsic special status. So say you have some thought arises in your mind, and then another thought arises, oh, that's stupid. This second thought is so seductive. It seems to give you some power of command and definition. I know this is stupid, but if we just stay present, that's stupid. Come, gone. The power of the concept was our fusion with it and our adoption of it as a place from which we could speak the truth about the world. So the problem is not the concept. The problem again is the glue which says this concept is something that I use against the world. Okay, that's about our time for today. We have a meeting next Wednesday to look a bit at the new book, which is on Amitabha and the Pure Land of Dewa Chen. So thank you very much to our translators today and to Pedro for keeping the whole production together. So we may meet again, we may not. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
James, thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Jesu, James.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Olá, olá. Até
Bye.
mais, gente. Um beijo, um abraço.
Bye.
Hasta luego. See you all soon.